What would be like the rough cost that someone could expect to pay to file a patent?
IP should always be in proportion to the value that it's protecting.
You've done your research, you didn't find anything there, but lo and behold, you manufacture this product and then you get a cease and desist letter, or you're infringing somewhere and someone comes after you. What are your options?
Once a patent is expired, it's fair game. There's a lot of people that will say you're infringing and you're really not.
Do people ever come to you where like they see a patent on a product and they're like, I want to do this product, but hey, can you look at this patent and tell me how do I get around it? So when I'm sourcing products, when I'm doing sort of my research in terms of does a patent that exists on this product, I'll tell you what I do and maybe you can poke holes in it and tell me if this is the right thing to do or not.
What you described, I think that's a pretty cool strategy. They don't want to spend that money. And of course you don't want to spend that money defending it. But like that, it's that type of game of chess. On a platform like Amazon, there are other tools. Like you can file an IP complaint, and you don't even need a lawyer to do that.
Do you have any examples of when you filed a patent for a client of yours and that showed up as a massive saving in their business, whether it was able to take off a competitor or they managed to sell their business for a much higher multiple?
I look at that patent and a lot of times it's a bluff. I mean, not even a bluff. Like a lot of times people don't even really understand the patent that they have. So like they're claiming we've got the patent on the fidget spinner, and it's like, no, you've got a patent on a specific example of a fidget spinner.
Yes, and welcome back to the official Swordsman of Kian YouTube channel. I've got an amazing episode lined up for you guys today. I've got none other than the one and only Mr. Rich Goldstein with us here today, which is going to talk to us all about patents. Now, patents is such an important topic because it's the ultimate defensibility for your product. You know, while we're developing all these cool new designs, we want to stay in front of our competition. Having that patent gives you that ultimate defensibility that you're now able to protect yourself from copycats. You can also get higher valuation of your business when you want to exit. So I thought I'd bring on an absolute expert to help with this topic today. So Rich, first of all, thank you very much for joining the Swordsman of Kian audience today.
Yeah, my pleasure. Absolutely.
So super excited to get into it with you on patents today, and we actually met in, I think 2018, we were both speaking at CellarCon.
Yeah, we were speaking in the same track.
And you went right before me, and then you were talking about patents, and from then we've just met at so many different events all around the world.
Yes.
You have your own firm, which we're going to link down below. If anyone needs any help with patents, definitely contact and reach out to Rich, and you also have a book as well, which we'll put information of that down below as well, and your own podcast and YouTube channel as well. So all that stuff will be linked down below for you guys to check out. But first of all, maybe we can just start off with, you know, whether you're an Amazon seller, a Shopify seller, you're just thinking about launching a product for the first time, which products do you think should be patented?
Okay, well, I think it depends on your goal for the patents. And I think the conventional thinking is we should patent our products to prevent other people from copying us. But then there's a whole nother aspect of it, which is patenting things to create assets that then will pay off big when you go to exit. So you could think of it in terms of while you're operating a company, is it going to be worth it to patent this product? Because is it going to be worth it in the sense that we can stop our competition from copying our product, and what's that going to save us in lost revenue? But the other way to look at it is in terms of exit and in terms of company valuation. So it's like, in part, there's two ways you make money in an e-com business. One way you make money is by selling products at a profit, and of course that you make money on an ongoing basis as you sell products at a profit. But the other way you make money is by creating a sustainable system for selling products at a profit. So all of the systems you build in your business then are creating value in the business. So you might be making $500,000 a year in profit, but at the same time, maybe you're building millions in valuation that you can cash in on someday when you sell your business. So if you think of that second way of creating value, that's where patents can come into play. It can create extra valuation, extra millions that you make. Excellent.
And then if someone decides, right, I want to get a patent for my particular product, what does that process look like?
Yeah, well, in general, the process involves putting in a patent application, which is, in the case of, well, now I'm jumping ahead to utility versus design, but in the case of a utility patent, it's a full explanation of what the product is, how it's different from things that have been done before, and essentially begins the process of convincing the patent office that it's worthy of a patent. And so we submit a patent application. Eventually, it's going to be reviewed by an examiner at the patent office. And if they approve it, then it will become issued as a United States patent. If they reject it, we have an opportunity to fight and argue why it should have been approved. But that's pretty much the patent process. And usually before you jump into that, before you even apply for a patent, you want to do some research to find out how close other people have come to what you have in mind. Because that's going to affect how good of a patent you have, or whether you could even get a patent at all.
And once you get that patent, that then lasts for 20 years, is that right?
Yes, so utility patent will expire 20 years after you first applied. And a design patent will last for 15 years from when it's granted, which I think is leading to the next question here.
Yeah, and am I right in saying that a design patent is just really on the actual look and shape of the product, and a utility patent is on the actual function, the function of the product, right?
Exactly. So a utility patent is about the structural, functional differences that make the product better than things that have been done before. It's about the functional improvement you've made to the product. Design patent is just about the shape of the product, just about the, like in the case of a bottle of water, there's nothing special about this bottle. It's just a regular screw top bottle, nothing different about the way it functions, except it's got these indentures, these curved lines in here. That could be a design patent to protect this shape for a bottle.
Right.
And if you have a product that has a unique look, then a design patent could be a very effective tool to prevent people from making a product that's just like yours.
Interesting. And then so if I've come up with this new product idea and I'm like, right, I want to either manufacture this product, how would you do your research as a seller to be like, right, before I start manufacturing this product, how do I do my research to know that someone's not filed a patent on this already?
Yeah, well, it's difficult because for one, you can't find out if someone has filed a patent application. Like, not all patent applications are public. Some of them are, but you can't ever be sure that someone hasn't filed an application 6 months ago. But what you can do is look for approved patents, issued patents, and the patent records go back more than 200 years. You can look on Google Patents. That's patents.google.com is the address. And you can do some basic research by using just regular old keywords to look for things that are similar. But there are some pitfalls to that, because if you invented a new type of can opener, and someone invented something exactly like it, but they called it a container lid remover. You know, your search for can opener wouldn't find that, because they're searching based on words. So that's where professional search comes into play. It's like we can find things that are similar even if it was named differently.
And something interesting you mentioned was that these patents can last for 20 years, and then once that 20 years is up, you can't renew that patent, right? So let's say, for example, if you're researching a product but that patent was filed in the year 2000 and now we're in 2022 or 2023, you can still make that exact same product. But if you make a slight modification, then there could be a patent on that modification. But if it's the exact same product which had a patent from 2002 backwards, you're within your right to manufacture that product.
Exactly. So once a patent is expired, it's fair game. Anyone could make, use, or sell that exact same product. That's a great hack. That's a great hack when you're sourcing products, when you're developing products. It's really hard to figure out, am I infringing any patents anywhere?
Yeah.
But if you find that the product existed, let's say 25 years ago, or you find an existing patent from 25, 30 years ago, you could make exactly that and know that you couldn't be infringing a patent.
Awesome.
Yeah, the danger is when you then begin modifying it and improving it, and so like maybe that basic product, maybe some type of glove or whatever, like it existed in 1980. And so you're like, I want to make it, but I'm going to make it using this brand new space age material. Well, you can't be sure that you're not infringing anything there, because maybe someone else got a patent on that later improvements. But if you want to do it exactly the way it was done back then, you're free to do so. So it's kind of like a safe harbor in that.
And for me personally, when I'm sourcing products, when I'm doing sort of my research in terms of does a patent exist on this product, I'll tell you what I do, and maybe you can poke holes in it and tell me if this is the right thing to do or not. But I would essentially find like, okay, here's the top 5 suppliers for this product on Alibaba in terms of they might supply Walmart or Disney or these big companies. And then I would ask them, hey, do you have a patent on this particular product as the manufacturer, or do you supply any customers which have a patent on this product? And normally if you go for like the top 5 suppliers, they would have enough knowledge about that particular product to know that if there's a patent or not. So that's my first step. And then after that, I use a website called importyeti.com, which tracks the shipping documents for your competition. I would look at the top 5 market leaders in that industry, and I would go find their suppliers, and I'd contact their suppliers and pretend like I'm going to place an order to say, hey, do you have any patents for this product? So I've asked the top 5 suppliers who can make this product, and I've asked the suppliers of the market leaders for that product. And then I'm like, okay, no one's mentioned anything about a patent. And the final thing I would do is go into a retail store, let's just say a Target, a Walmart, a Bed Bath & Beyond, someone like that. Find that product if it exists in retail, and then see on the packaging, is there anything about any patents? So I've asked suppliers, competition of my suppliers, and then also retail stores, and I'm like, and then the Google patent.google search as well, and I'm like, right, I'm fairly confident there's not a patent here, so let me just go. But the final bulletproof measure would be to work with a company like yourself for you guys to do like the legal search as well, right?
Yes. And it becomes very expensive to do that type of search. It's called a freedom to operate review, which is basically, I've got this product, am I infringing any patents anywhere in any way? And it's a difficult question to resolve. And most of the time what we're doing, through spending a lot of money, I mean, it's definitely in the 5 figures, sometimes into 6 figures to do a freedom to operate review. It's not worth it for most people launching a product. But what you described, I think that's a pretty cool strategy. It's not foolproof, but it's like, hey, if there was a patent, these people would probably know about it. And so it's like you're probably going to reduce the risk significantly by doing it. It's still possible that a patent exists that no one is talking about, is one. It's also possible that their patent is pending and it hasn't yet been granted. And so maybe based upon the survey that you did from people, you realize, well, maybe there isn't a patent yet. You dive in, you invest money in producing it, and then a few months down the road, all of a sudden there's a patent, and maybe you have to stop doing it. And so it's not foolproof, but it's pretty good. I think it's a pretty good technique.
Thanks. And then, like, if you were, for example, you've done your research, you didn't find anything there, but lo and behold, you manufacture this product, and then you get a cease and desist letter, or you're infringing somewhere, and someone comes after you. What are your options if let's just say you're selling 1,000 pieces of this water bottle? You've sold 600 of your units so far. You get a letter to say, hey, we have a patent on that product. Like, what are your next steps? Like, do you have to just comply to whatever they say? Would you hire a lawyer yourself? Would you just get on the phone with them, see, like, can we get a resolution? Like, what are the options in that scenario?
Yeah, well, I think the first step is always to verify, is there infringement or not? There's a lot of people that will say you're infringing and you're really not. And it's getting to the bottom of that question, because that would affect how you respond. If it's just really an empty threat and their claim really holds no water, then you might just ignore it, right? If there is a real claim, like if I review the patent and I say, well, you know what, you really are infringing, now you have a different set of options. Now it's a matter of negotiating, and maybe you negotiate to sell out your inventory, or maybe you negotiate for a licensing agreement whereby you pay a royalty, and maybe it's still profitable for you to sell the product even though you're paying a royalty. And the other factor that always enters into it is it's tremendously expensive to bring a litigation. So for someone to actually sue you, it costs hundreds of thousands and sometimes into the millions to bring a patent lawsuit all the way through. And so that's always a factor. They don't want to spend that money. And of course, you don't want to spend that money defending it. But like that, it's that type of game of chess that goes on from that point of trying to strategize, like, how do we resolve this where it's really the best for both sides.
And interestingly, so what would the advice be in the reverse of that scenario, in terms of if you have a patent and you see someone infringing, what would be like your best course of action as the innovator of a product to go after the people who've infringed on your patent?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's a cost-benefit analysis of is it worth it and such, but I mean, there's different types of enforcement, first of all. Like, there's litigation, which is traditionally the way that you enforce a patent. But on a platform like Amazon, there are other tools. Like, you can file an IP complaint, and you don't even need a lawyer to do that, to say, like, these listings, these ASINs are infringing on my patent. And when it comes to utility patents, like, there are processes. There's the neutral evaluation process, which is like a mini arbitration that happens, where it's like, so if I see that one of your listings is infringing my patent, then I could initiate a neutral patent evaluation through Amazon. I complain about your ASIN. Amazon says, okay, if you want to enter this neutral evaluation program, then you'll put up $4,000. I'll put up $4,000, and basically the winner of the arbitration gets the money back.
Oh, right.
But if you don't respond in 3 weeks, they'll take your listings down.
Right.
So like that's an enforcement technique that you could use, is the neutral evaluation when someone's infringing a patent, and it's a lot less expensive than bringing a real litigation.
Interesting. And you work with so many different Amazon sellers and aggregators and loads of different brands. I don't know if you're allowed to share any examples, but do you have any examples of when you filed a patent for a client of yours and that showed up as a massive saving in their business, whether it was able to take off a competitor or they managed to sell their business for a much higher multiple, or maybe working with an aggregator where you were able to save them so much money by adding patents to their products? Like, what are the best cases that you've seen of profit added when applying a patent to your business?
Yeah, I mean, all of the above. Like, I mean, I've had clients and friends that weren't necessarily working with me that had their patent pending. They had lots of copycats, the patent issued, and they were able to clear the playing field by using their patent. I've also had cases where clients had a patent and they had an acquisition, and it was the clear reason why they had a lot of offers, and it's a reason why they got a multiple that was higher than what most of their other friends without IP were getting.
Interesting.
And then in the final part of that, what you're asking about with regard to aggregators themselves, it's like a lot of times what happens is you have buyers that are saying, we are worthy of a multiple of 7 because we've got the patent that is for the blah, blah, blah. It's like, we've got the patent for the fidget spinner. And then they turn to me and they say, well, do they really? Because if it's not for this patent, they're probably worth a multiple of 4, not 7. And so in that case, it's like, I say, I'll be the judge of that. I look at their patent, and a lot of times it's a bluff. I mean, not even a bluff. Like, a lot of times people don't even really understand the patent that they have. So like, they're claiming, we've got the patent on the fidget spinner, and it's like, no, you've got a patent on a specific example of a fidget spinner. So it's not really creating a moat. It's not really creating walls that will prevent someone else from entering the field. So the aggregator that's buying your company for its profitability, and they're buying the upside, they realize then, after we give it a good look, no, it's not worth a 7. Maybe it is more like a 4.
Right. And I think every case will be different, whether it's a design patent or a utility patent, and what are the intricacies in that. But what would be like the rough cost that someone could expect to pay to file a patent? I know each case will be different, but roughly, if someone's like, I've got this idea, I'm not sure whether I should, go down the line of, trying to get this patent, like, what would be the rough costings and timeline for processing something like that?
Yeah, so when it comes to utility patents, around $15,000 to apply.
Wow.
For design patents, probably more like 4,000.
Right.
And the timeline is roughly the same. It's like a year to 2 years typically to get a patent.
And I always view it in terms of like, okay, if it's 15K for a utility patent or 4K for a design patent, what is the value of my order? So if this is just a first order, I'm just trialing this, it's 500 units, it's a $2 item, I'm not going to pay $4,000 for a design patent when the order value is $1,000.
Right,
but
exactly.
If this is like this brand new product, it's never been done before, it's the new electric toothbrush, it can brush your teeth on 2 rows at the same time, no one's done this before, I want to protect this, and this is going to be a $200,000 order, then a $4,000 design patent or a $15,000 utility patent makes a lot of sense because it's a fraction of the order value.
That's exactly how I like to look at it. Is I think IP should always be in proportion to the value that it's protecting, or the value that it's boosting. It's like IP becomes valuable when you've got a valuable business. So it's like people ask, well, what would the value of this patent be? Well, the patent itself tends to not have much value. It's speculative. Like, oh, that's a cool product idea, but is the patent going to be worth it? Are we going to be able to launch a product and make money from it? But it's like, if you've got a business that's got $1 million in EBITDA, like $1 million in profit per year, based on that patent, now all of a sudden the patent helps extend the value. So rather than, let's say, be a 4-time multiple on that $1 million, now maybe it's suddenly a 4.5-time multiple. Or 5-time multiple. So it's a 4.5-time multiple on where it's now, instead of getting paid $4 million, you're getting paid $4.5 million. And that's conservative, just a little stretch in the multiple, right?
Yeah.
So an extra $500,000 because of that $5,000 patent, that's a big ROI. That's a 100-time ROI.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of a way to look at it is, you got to look at the like you said, the size of the order. Like, what's the value that's at stake? And then your IP should be proportionate to that.
Excellent. So, you know, in a lot of products that we develop a mold for that product. Like, so if it's a new item, it's not been done before, we'll get that mold, whether it be a plastic or a metal item, and the mold will be to manufacture a shape of that product. And we're making that mold because that shape doesn't exist. So do you see any correlation between making a mold and then filing the patent? Or do people come to you like at the time of like design, or it doesn't really matter? Like, if you have a mold and go for a manufactured product, and when you feel like your sales are really increasing, that's the time to go for the patent. I know we sort of discussed the value of the order, but sometimes, like, you know, if your mold costs you $5,000 or $10,000, an extra layer of defensibility is that you have the patent as well, because it's just essentially another barrier to entry. Because if someone wants to copy your product, then they have to invest, you know, $5,000 to $10,000 in developing that mold as well. Plus, they see that there's a patent on it. So, like, I like to sort of have that double protection. In fact, I look at 3 layers of protection in terms of, right, do I have a mold? Do I have a patent on the product? And then do I have an exclusivity agreement with the factory that they're agreeing not to sell that product to anyone else as well? Because sometimes you could do all the right steps, but the manufacturer then decides to sell that product that you've developed to other people without you knowing. So is there essentially a correlation between like developing a mold with a factory and then filing a patent against that mold, or you just file a patent whenever you're ready?
Well, no, I think it's correlated. And look, there's a whole philosophy question here of like when it's worth it. And if you look towards exit, it's always worth it. If you could afford it. There's a different question. There's a question of resources. It's like any entrepreneur starting out has limited resources. And so it's like, is it worth spending the money on this now? Because that might prevent me from having extra money for PPC clicks, like in order to build the product up or whatever.
Cost,
so that's the bigger question. Because if you look at it in a long run scenario, like if you were launching 100 patents and you did design patents on all of them at an early design stage, you know, you would like hit a home run on probably 10 out of that 100, where it was worth 1,000 times what you invested in the patent. You know, and then you've got a whole bunch that might be worth 100 times, and some that are worth 10 times, and some that didn't pan out, products that just fizzled. So it's like, if you look at the long-term scenario of it, get whatever IP you can, get whatever patents you can, get whatever trademarks you can. If you play the numbers, you'll always win. But the bigger question is resources in the beginning, right? And so it's like, if you had the resources, if you're launching 10 products and you've got the resources, then do 10 patents at as early a stage as possible, because you will win in the long run. If you launch one product and you spend all your resources on launching that product and it fails, then that leaves you in a spot.
Sure.
I was just going to say, my favorite definition of sustainability is playing in a way that leaves you more able to play in the future. So if you put all your resources into one basket, then you're not going to be able to do more products. So I think that's the bigger question in it, is planning your resources so that you could do a bunch of products and not win on every single one of them.
I love it. And just wrapping up, like, do people ever come to you where like they see a patent on a product and they're like, I want to do this product, but hey, can you look at this patent and tell me how do I get around it? What changes I should make to this product in order to now develop and manufacture this myself?
Exactly, and that's called a design around review.
Right.
So that's something we do pretty regularly, because here's the thing about patents is that, well, first of all, sometimes people tell you like you need to get a patent. Patents are so valuable. Patents are indispensable. Other people say don't bother with a patent because you change one little thing and you get around the patent. And who's right? They're both right at different times, because the thing is that every patent has a scope. a scope of protection. Someone sees a patent number on something and they say, oh, I guess we can't copy that, it's patented. Well, no, wait a second, something about the product is patented. Maybe it's the design that's patented. Maybe it's the battery compartment mechanism or something. But the important thing is to inquire and find out what actually is this patent for, and then what can we do to get around the patent. Because the patent might not be for the thing that attracts you to copying the product, and it might not be for the thing that attracts your customer toward buying the product. And so you don't do that thing, and you're not infringing the patent. So it's worth looking into.
For sure. And yeah, Rich, you've just got an absolute wealth of knowledge on this topic, and we could talk for hours on it.
Yes.
But for people which want to learn more about you and what you do in patents, people which want to get in touch with you to use your services, what's the best way for people to reach you?
No, absolutely. So first of all, you can go to goldsteinpatentlaw.com, and there are amazing free resources there for learning about the patent process. I've got videos there which in a half an hour really go through every step of what the process is all about. I also have the book I wrote, you mentioned. The American Bar Association asked me to write a book to explain in plain English what patents are for entrepreneurs. And so that's the ABA Consumer Guide to Obtaining a Patent.
Nice.
And you can find that on Amazon. And I've got my podcast, which you've been on, and it's called Innovations and Breakthroughs. And I talk about the path that people have taken from having an idea toward bringing it out into the world.
Perfect. So thank you so much for all you do, and I hope the people watching got a lot of value from this, and now you can go on to file patents and design cool new products, and everything that Rich talked about as well. I'm going to link in the description of this video down below as well, so definitely check out that to connect with Rich and all the resources and the wealth of knowledge that he has. But thank you again for all that you do. It's been an absolute pleasure, and thanks very much for jumping on the channel.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
All right, thanks Rich. All the best.
Thanks.
Take care, guys.